bore those lent credence to his spiritism. Duro Ladipo was one of the best-known and world-acclaimed Yoruba dramatists to emerge from post-colonial Africa. His notable works, Obakoso, Obawaja, and Moremi, took him beyond Africa to several parts of the world. By the time Duro Ladipo died on 11 March 1978, Nigeria's first cultural ambassador had acquired a towering image as an artist whose works adorned the frontage of Trenchard Hall, University of Ibadan. Western Spring Television identifies Duro Ladipo as a major character in history.
So much to serve you this beautiful day. Thank you for being there. It's very cold, and obviously when the cold weather is here, you always want to probably lay back real good this morning, because it is a public holiday, and all you need to do is just tune the volume up and get to follow us right here. Let's get down to the business of the morning, as I have the Punch newspaper checking out some of the headlines making the rounds this beautiful Tuesday, Wednesday morning, the midweek edition of Morning Spring. Let's check out some of these headlines making the round from the Punch newspaper. The big bold headline there has to do about fuel, and NLC, TUC have spoken out this time around. It says NLC, TUC lambast Tinubu as fuel hits 630 naira to a litre, shun negotiations. And there is a rider to that story. Labour kicks against 8,000 naira palliative, says Tinubu deviated from making Nigeria better. NNPCL defends new pump price, filling station short, queues resurface in Abuja, Lagos. Not just in Abuja and Lagos, right here in Osun State. It is. I know what it took me, how many, a couple of minutes naturally. Something whereby even at after the subsidy removal, whereby 500 naira, 510 or thereabout, we will just easily drive into a filling station, get your fuel. But as yesterday, it was massive to fuel in a couple of fuel into the car. I know what I went through, but we just hope something drastic will be done concerning this, because fuel is a major determinant. It's quite a whole lot that is needed in this nation. As individuals, we all need it to move around, to do the needful, because before we know it, the prices of things will erupt. And looking at this moment in time, if it's been sold at 630 naira to a litre, whoa, where are we going from here? These were the things this new administration promised, that immediately fuel subsidy was gone, as stated by Mr. President on the 29th of May. And here we are. Nigerians are grounding. We are really, really grounding. It's really, really a tough time for Nigerians at this moment in time. But we just hope the needful will be done. Something drastic, All the moribund refineries that are just there, can this get to work? Can they all get to work? And this is something that we urge the federal government to please do something concerning this at this moment in time. You can see the queues, the pictures in Abuja, all this, and in Lagos as well. You can see the queues. It's out there, and hey, wow, we just hope and pray that something drastic will be done as soon as possible. Let's move on to the bottom strip of that picture. Those pictures there, we have this headline: CBN deletes 2,698 BDGs, that's Bureau change, in 1 year. Okay, and still staying with that same daily, military threatening to demolish 5,000 houses. Ogun communities tell assembly. What's I don't know, the military and residents, what's their thing about it? But if you're interested, please check out full details of that story. It's on page 10 of the Punch newspaper for this morning. And troops kill 2 IPOB fighters, arrest 5 in Delta. I think probably the military have woken up. IPOB, they are beginning to step beyond their boundaries. Left to me, this shouldn't be. Looking at the cache of arms that were intercepted by the military just a couple of days ago, and looking at where the direction at which they said that truck was going through Anambra, which you all know that it's definitely going to pass through Delta, getting through the Onitsha Bridge and straight in there. But looking at the cache of arms and looking at what is happening there, IPOB, I'm not saying probably it's IPOB that owns that large cache of ammunition, but the point is, what is this going to do there? And the military have been able to intercept and kill 2 IPOB members and arrested 5. Look, I feel there should be thorough cohesion, organization, and proper understanding of things in our dear nation. There's nothing that's as good as dialogue. Dialogue is such an important thing. But when we tend to want to use force against each other, it's not the best of things. It's not the best of things as well. All right, let's check out some of the other stories making the rounds on the top strip of the Punch newspaper for today. Tinubu backtracks, reviews proposed 8,000 naira cash palliative. One of our major topics is because now, if we duly remember what happened on the 29th of May during the swearing-in, when Mr. President made mention of the fact that subsidy was gone. Eventually, a couple of days later, but some of us who are very privy to getting to see his speech, we all know that the subsidy stuff that Mr. President stated wasn't in his speech. And is he putting the cart before the horse? Because certain things will have been said before we now think about it. Because if palliatives had been set aside and ways to go about all these things had been set aside, I don't think, and pushed properly, I'm not too sure if we'll be in this kind of dilemma in which we are at this moment in time. We just hope the needful will be done. 8,000 naira, believe you me, it ain't going to go nowhere any moment from now. All right. Let's check out other stories making the rounds from the pages, still from the pages of Punch newspaper for today. This story here says, sustained air attacks on terrorists. Commander tells troops. Yeah, that's one of the major things that's has been happening. They really have been bombarding the hideouts of all these terrorists, bandits in the last couple of months. And we want to say, well done, kudos to the men, the gallant men of the Nigerian Army, Nigerian Air Force and Navy. All these agencies have been doing extremely well. We give it to them and say, well done, and keep it coming, keep it happening. We need to stabilize this. We need to make sure that our country is we all live in peace. And that peace means quite a whole lot to us. All right, the last story from the pages of Punch newspaper today. North Central, Southwest, ex-governors may replace Adamu Omishore. I hope, and I am really hoping, that this ain't going to cause another set of controversy. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Let's see who becomes who. The chairman of the ruling party and the secretary to that party as well. You know, former chairman Abdullahi Adamu has just resigned, and also the former secretary Iyola Omishore himself has just resigned. But let's see who takes up the gauntlet, who takes up the mantle from these two great men. A couple of names have been shortlisted, but we'll keep our fingers crossed. Let's see what it looks like. All right, moving further to the next daily I have with me here. I have the Vanguard newspaper. Vanguard newspaper is next, and this is as stated. It's common to all the dailies this morning. The big bold caption here: anger as petrol hits 568 naira to a litre in Lagos and 617 in Abuja. Others in Oshogbo here, it is 617. And some filling stations, and whoa, it's really alarming. The riders associated to that is large, and it's just almost the same thing as what we took from the Vanguard newspaper. as well. And you could see the picture of Mr. President and some of his economic advisors just behind him there. We just hope the needful will be done and done as soon as possible. Please, Nigerians are really, really in pains at this moment in time. And still staying with subsidy, let's look at this story. Subsidy removal. Tinubu orders review of proposed 8,000 naira cash transfer. Plans to unveil federal government's palliative package. We're waiting, Mr. President. Nigerians are waiting. And I would just admonish that rather than push the cart before the horse, look, let's do the needful. Let's do this as it has to be. Then we now bring it to the fore, where Nigerians will see that, okay, these are the plans they have. We're going to do this, but we're going to use this to cushion the effect of what is really happening at this point. So let's see what it looks like and what the palliative package will definitely come up to look like for us here. Anthrax, stop eating meat from sick animals. NCDC wants Nigerians. For those of us where you probably like to eat suya, look, at this moment, we should just be careful. And even if you're going to prepare a home, I will admonish us that, look, let's make sure we boil or fry this meat properly. Anthrax is in town. It's ravaging animals, poultry, the farmyard, and please, so that we don't contact, and this could lead to death in one way if it's not properly boiled or fried. So let's do the needful at that point in time. Let's go straight to the top strip. The top strip of Vanguard newspaper still. Oil exploration. Nigeria's rig count rises. Nigeria's rig count rises 27.7% to 14. Wow, that's a report there. If you're interested, please, you can check it out. And exchange rate, foreign scholarship to be suspended for 2 years. Foreign scholarship to be suspended for 2 years. That's credited to TED Fund speaking there. And on the other side, just the last story, not second to the last, reps to security agencies stop setting vessels with stolen crude oil on fire. That is a very important thing here, because I wonder, a vessel was intercepted carrying about 800 liters of petrol, 800,000 liters of petrol, I think, in the course of sometimes last week. And after intercepting it, you must have made arrest. And the next thing is for you to say, why? Why should that be? It's not. What about the oil that was inside it? Did we hear of the fact that they were taken out? It was siphoned. It was taken out of the vessel before you set it on fire. And I'm still wondering why. What's the need of setting that vessel on fire if you probably arrest a car driver, a car that hasn't got its papers properly? Now you intercept such a car, you arrest the owner of the car or the driver or somebody who was actually driving the car. Then will you set that car on fire because you've intercepted something inside that car? These are things that cause for concern, the way and manner at which we react to certain things. Sometimes I feel it shouldn't be. All right, let's go to some sports stories this morning. West Ham, Everton fight for Iheanacho. I'm looking forward to that young man leaving Leicester City once they are in the championship. Iheanacho, I feel he's more than the championship, or probably. He could probably just use it to get game time and fitness, but we'll just wish him the very best. Other stories, let's move over quickly. Again, just as it is common to virtually all the dailies this morning, I'm going straight to the Nation newspaper. The Nation newspaper is next that I have with me here. And you have the big bold caption there. Tinubu orders release of grain to 50 million farmers. Others, 50 million farmers. Others. President directs review of 8,000 naira cash transfer to poor households. Then there's a red strip just above that major story there, and it's credited to Mr. President. Tinubu orders NDLEA to probe killing of 2-year-old by operatives in Delta. That is a sad story there. A 2-year-old boy that was shot mistakenly. They said it was a stray bullet and hit this young 2-year-old boy and his destiny has been cut short. It's so sad, so sad. We just hope the needful will be done there. Coming further down, other stories making the round. Senate seeks immediate action on Ondo ocean surge. Ibrahim's motion gets support. Yeah, we know what happens. Although that the river, the ocean surging, and really a point to ponder there. We just hope the needful will be done. And coming straight down to the bottom strip of the Nation newspaper, market forces driving price of petrol, says Kyari. That's the group managing director of the NNPCL, Malam Kyari, speaking there, saying market forces driving price of petrol, says Kyari. And there is a writer there. It says NNPCL price of petrol will go up and down as prevailing situation dictates. We are praying that it comes further down, not up. How many? Because the quantity at which we buy these days is not really on that large scale. And the consumption of fuel at this moment in time has drastically gone down. Most people have decided to park their machines, their cars at home, and would rather just go out on bikes or take buses, commercial cars this moment. But because to be able to get good fuel inside your cars, you need good money. Coming straight to the bottom strip, the red column of the Nation newspaper on the bottom strip, Oyo, Osun, Kano, others declare holiday for Hijrah 1445. Yeah, 40. Okay, so we wish all our Muslim parents, brothers and sisters, a happy Hijrah 1445. Moving to the top strip of the Nation newspaper, UK agency OK's Naira for trade financing. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Senate, House to probe NNPCL, NDDC, others. And you have that writer, many allegations in focus. We just hope the needful will be done and done quickly when it comes to that. We want to say, because this set of agencies are agencies where you tend to find out that, look, it is very important to know what's going down there. NNPCL in the last couple of years have just been, how many times have they remitted monies to the coffers of the federal government? But an NDDC, the Niger Delta Development Company, look, it's something drastic must be done. CBN axes 2,698 BDCs, and heat wave threatens lives in US, Europe. If you are not too familiar with the heat wave in Europe or in the US at this moment in time, and you plan on going on summer vacation, please think twice. The heat wave here, it's really massive in both the US and a couple of states, countries rather, in Europe as well. Then NPA targets 500 billion naira revenue, the Port Authority, and once that is done, please remit. It's necessary. Moving on, let's go straight to some of the headlines making the rounds from Daily Trust newspaper. Daily Trust newspaper is another story. Virtually all these dailies carry most of the same story, but reported differently here. And on the front page, the big bold caption on the front page of Daily Trust newspaper, petrol at 617 naira per litre. Federal government on path to dictatorship. We will resort to self-help. That's credited to the NLC. Now, let me take a couple of riders, some of the riders associated to that story. There says, commuter ground as commercial drivers hike fares and market forces responsible. That's credited to the NNPCL speaking there. Increase minimum wage to 100,000 naira. That's credited to civil society. And Tinubu orders review of 8,000 naira palliative. You can see pictures there of queues at various filling stations all across Nigeria, as taken by Daily Trust newspaper. And coming further down here, below that picture, farmers flee Borno villages as Boko Haram killings returned. Bottom strip, Nigeria's daily petrol consumption falls by 35%. I said this earlier. Yeah, everybody will think twice. If it's not really too important for me to drive to a place that I can easily just take maybe 200 naira bike or 300, 400 naira bike. I think people are beginning to think towards that direction these days because the consumption, the petrol consumption, it has dropped by 35%. All right, okay, let's move on. Bride removes gown to escape as bandit attack wedding ceremony. When you see death, man, nobody tells you what to do. But then it isn't a funny story, but that's really, really ridiculous. On a wedding day is always a day for anybody, for couples to reminisce and remember for good for the rest of their lives. But this bride will, the lady will probably remember this for the rest of her life. That's man. I pick race during my wedding, man, when bandits came calling. But then, let's move on here. Touch phone to reps. Help us recover 323 billion naira debt from federal government. Oh, wow. On the top strip of Daily Trust, BON kicks as NBC malls license fee hike, broadcasting code review. And finally, freight service begins on Lagos-Ibadan fast train. And Senate may get ministerial list today. We'll keep our fingers crossed. We are waiting. We are waiting. We are waiting. And let's just look at some of the other stories as well, making the rounds from the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian newspaper is the last that I've got with me here. Nigerians ground as higher fuel prices shrink incomes, worsens poverty. Nigerians ground as higher fuel prices shrink incomes, worsen poverty. It is really amazing and alarming, very, very alarming there. On the bottom strip of the Guardian newspaper, lawmakers probe alleged 2 trillion naira non-remittance by NNPCL. Let's probe and then let's see who have siphoned this monies, and let's see what it looks like here. Senate unveils Tinubu's ministerial list today. We will keep our fingers crossed and we want to see what it looks like. All right, that will be all from the pages of the different papers that I have with us here. And when I return, we will look at the state of the nation, the review of the 8,000 naira as proposed by Mr. President. In the last couple of weeks, there was a proposal of 8,000 naira cash grant to 12 million households. Now, Mr. President has ordered a review because Nigerians have come out to really, really talk and shout and cry that, look, what can 8,000 naira do? It's really not going to be it's not really going to be palatable, but let's see what it looks like. In the course of this, we will discuss that and other things, the state of the nation in general. Stay with us. It's still Morning Spring, coming to you live from Western Spring Television. We'll say it as it is.
The Berlin Conference of 1884 defined the configuration of Africa, which hitherto existed as a continent of multiple kingdoms and empires under native rulers. The conference, otherwise referred to as Congo Conference, regulated European colonization and trade in Africa as initiated by German leader Otto von Bismarck. The Berlin Conference is often called the scramble for and partitioning of Africa, as each of the imperial powers carved separate portions of the continent for themselves without recourse to racial and cultural identities and differences. 137 years after the Berlin Conference was held, Africa remains a legitimized playground for European nations that sought to exploit its wealth and resources and manipulate its human capital to promote trades and investments of Western powers. Western Spring Television identifies Berlin Conference as a major event in history.
Arrested, affected, sound, found. What do we see? What do we say? Flowing from a spring, a fact A to Z. Check and confirm. Ever expounding current events, traveling down from the business gist to the globally arising happenings, to the sports news, to the bittersweet infos. Guided transmission, even diffusion, vast and fast, detailed facts are fled. Within seconds, nuggets of words that flew across borders are fired. Stories short and long, wrapped in bundles of words, broken and dissected as it is, except misheard. This is the news as it is.
Olayinka Herbert Macaulay, politician, nationalist and journalist, was the first Nigerian to qualify as a civil engineer, surveyor and architect. Born on November 14, 1864, Herbert Macaulay was the founder of Nigeria's National Democratic Party, the first political party in pre-independent Nigeria. Scholars of Nigeria's political history describe Herbert Macaulay as the intellectual bulldog of 19th century Nigerian nationalist movement, in a deference to his qualities as founder and leader of two foremost political parties, Nigeria National Democratic Party (NNDP) and National Council of Nigerian Citizens (NCNC). His matchless versatility in party organization and control.
You know, at this moment in time, any little statement, stay credited to anybody, it can aggravate a cause. But please, let's just be very mindful of who we cause each other at this point in time. All right, let's move on. The program is still Morning Spring, the midweek edition, and as we have a holiday today, I just hope one of these days, I think I'll need to speak to my CEO. There is a need for a holiday. If there's a holiday, we'll probably look more refreshed and can come back, but we are always looking refreshed up in here. Morning Spring is here. Western Spring Television is the station that says it as it is. In the last couple of weeks, it's been very, very tedious for Nigerians, looking at the state at which fuel scarcity, the fuel prices, not scarcity rather, the rise in the hike in price of fuel has been, hey, it calls for concern. Nigerians are really groaning, and also there was a third by the federal government to bring up about 8,000 naira for 12 million households. Can that do anything for the next six months? 8,000 naira. Wow. But we want to look at the state of the nation this moment in time. And joining me live on sets is a very amazing man who will definitely help us out to deliberate and analyze how we can go about this. From Urban Alert, I want to welcome my dear brother, Tony JUWON. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. Good morning, and good morning, Nigerians, for having me.
Let's go straight. First of all, let's look at the state at which fuel is. I don't know, maybe you are very okay. Fuel, I know off camera, I know what you said about fuel, but NLC, TUC, Lambast Tinubu as fuel hit 630 naira to a liter. They say shun negotiation. They are shunning negotiation. If they shun negotiation at this moment in time, is it not at the detriment of the citizens of this dear nation, even looking at the price of fuel at this moment in time?
For me, NLC, TUC in the last 8 years plus has been so useless as a movement. And it's so disheartening that we've gotten ourselves to this level, because those groups should be the strong voice.
Absolutely.
That should fight for the people. Why they fight for themselves, they should also be able to fight for the people. Throughout the last administration, the 8 years, and coming into another administration, those guys have just been there. And it's so disheartening that as we speak, there is no organized group in Nigeria that can really hold government down on policies, on issues that are directly, affecting the common man. Throughout the 8 years, we've had so many times that the former government removed subsidy for the 8 years they were there. And it was as if they were actually, pranking Nigerians, saying, we are removing some subsidy, this month, and in the next 6 months, they are removing another. So what have you been removing for 8 years? And for these 8 years, we didn't have the TUC, we didn't have the NLC that could really talk for the people. Gone are those days when we have strong labor, in Nigeria when it comes to the movement. But it's no more there. Now, coming out to say they want to do this, they want to do that now, people have lost trust in the TUC, in the NLC, about fighting for the people, fighting for the cause of the common man on the street. And that's why we are here. Once any part of our social structure falls, then everything falls down. No one, I mean, when it comes to labor, is there to really engage the government truthfully and frankly. And I must tell you, that is why we are here. That's why we have a government that have refused to put everything in place before removing subsidy. Just woke up one day and say, you are removing subsidy and you're saying so many funny things. Now we are here, 600 naira plus for a liter of petrol in a country that produces oil. Imagine, millions of barrels every day goes away every day in this country, and we are going to be buying fuel at that amount. That's so absurd.
Looking at what the NNPCL has stated, credited to why it has risen to that amount, over 600 naira plus, saying market forces driving price of petrol. That's credited to the GMD Group Managing Director of NNPC, Mili Kiari, there. And I look at looking at other factors, looking at other things that have gone on. Prices of food stuff in Nigeria today is for you to eat three decent meals, not even square meals. That's why 3 decent meals in a day. You probably think twice, probably skip one and say, look, 101 or thereabout. Well, how market forces in what way? What can NNPC do? I looked at a story somewhere in the dailies this morning, and it's been stated that they should put NNPCL for not remitting about 2 trillion naira. And it's still the same NNPCL saying market forces driving price of petrol. What is wrong with NNPCL?
Now, people say Nigeria is a very complex state. But as a matter of fact, Nigeria is not really a complex state. It's the people ruling us that make things complex. We should have, when we have a structure like the NNPCL, we should have, you know, so many harms that's going to regulate, ensure that these guys are doing it the right way. But the question is, who are those people that we ask them to do it the right way? And are they also not feeding fact on the anomalies in NNPCL? You know, you could imagine that when you compare Nigeria with many other countries that are oil producing, you will ask yourself, are we really producing oil, or we are producing something else? You know, one of the first 10 countries in the world producing oil, Nigeria.
Yes.
We can't just say we are really enjoying this, you know, natural resource. And when it comes to corruption, it has taken every aspect of our lives. And it's actually extremely difficult for one person to say, I want to change the system. Because you can't actually do it.
Is this how we're going to keep on keeping on?
Now, that is the question. Everybody sees his own time as his own opportunity to feed. Yes. So when it comes to the fuel importation, you need FX. Now, what is the value of $1 today in Naira?
As I yesterday was about 812 Naira, 800.
A pint today.
Oh, so that's over 1,000 Naira.
So this is what we are talking about. All these things goes pari passu. You are looking at the importation of fuel. You must also deal with the issue of FX, because these guys will use FX to buy the fuel. Now, if they are buying fuel, you know, a dollar is more than 800 Naira. So imagine how they are going to get these things. The only solution, and our leaders know, the only solution is to have working refineries, not one. Working refineries. When the last administration was going, they were so, you know, making so much noise on Dangote refinery. It's almost August.
Dangote is a businessman.
He's a businessman. So, you know, building your country on a business entity, a private business entity, is tantamount to suicide for such country. We have refineries in Kaduna, in Port Harcourt, in Warri. We cannot say we want to fix one. But rather than fixing one so that we can solve our problem in a medium time and long term, we decide to say, let's share 8,000 Naira. Are we okay? We are not going to solve that problem. We are never going to solve the problem sharing 50,000 Naira to 130 million people. We won't solve the problem. And in fact, if we are going to give in palliatives, inflation will continue to rise. So why not just solve the problem from the root? Fix our refineries. If you can't fix it, sell it off. Let people fix it. Let's begin to produce our own oil.
Is it an aspect whereby those at the helm of affairs seem not to be bothered that these refineries aren't working?
We should begin to ask ourselves, are these people at the helms of affairs, do they have interest in refinery business as an individual? Do they invest outside the country into refineries? You know, are they the one importing the fuel? Because it is very simple. If they do not have interest in all this, they would have fixed what we really have.
Yeah.
Your father's house is burning, is leaking, and you don't want to fix it. You prefer to go and rent an apartment. Are you okay? It's as simple as that. If we don't have a government, if we don't have leaders that are really serious about the plight of the people, fixing public properties, so that public properties can work for people, so that private interest will not continue to feed on the pains of the people.
Yeah.
We'll continue to be like this. And I tell you, Nigeria is a blessed country. We have everything.
I agree.
We have people that can really think for us. But once we begin to do some dilly-dallies, then we begin to get it off. And it will continue to remain like this, if not worse.
If not worse, that's the scary part of it, because just like the papers, everybody is grounding in one way. I know what we stated off camera, where the car is. Everybody is. If it's not totally too important, you don't take your car.
You don't. You don't even go out.
You don't go.
You don't go out.
But let's come back a little bit to a couple of weeks. Sometime was it last week or 2 weeks ago, where the issue of the 8,000 naira for 12 million households came into circulation. That 12 million households will get 8,000 naira, and I just looked at it that even if I have to give my wife 8,000 naira, go to the market, even if she has to spend the entire 8,000 naira, everything she will bring it just in one 15 naira nylon bag, and I will keep asking, the 8,000 naira I give to you, just this, but 8,000 naira, though it's been stated that Mr. President has said, look, they want to review that policy, what they intend doing for 12 million households. First of all, what do you make of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration at this moment in time? It seemed to always push the cart before the horse. They didn't make provisions for subsidy. After they made mention about it on the 29th of May, that subsidy was gone. These will be the things that we will do for you. These are the things that will begin to come into play now that subsidy is gone. We didn't hear that, but we just heard the subsidy is gone. Now, they're looking at 8,000 naira for 12 million households. Recently, earlier in the year, we heard that we have 133 million Nigerians are multidimensionally in poverty. 12 million. What is the basis of choosing this 12 million? What do you think? Now that they even want to review this, should there be money paid, or that 500 billion naira, 800 million US dollars should be channeled into things that will benefit us on the long run?
See, we have gone through this route before, and I must tell you, it's ended bad. And for me, I feel our leader seems to be recycling ideas. You can't be doing something the same way and expect different result.
Absolutely.
It doesn't work that way. The former government, the government of the former president, Muhammadu Buhari, had to even create a special ministry, Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs.
Disaster management.
Yes. And I must tell you, a lot of money went into distribution. Until today, that ministry cannot make public details of those who benefited from so many programs. Now you begin to ask yourself, they said they're going to distribute 8,000 naira to 12 million households, not individuals, households. Now ask yourself, people that I don't want to, you're removing 12 million from 130 million multi-dimensional poverty, range. So that means those 12 million are the people below, the table. You understand? And I must tell you, these 12 million will definitely, normally, will not have bank accounts. So how are you going to distribute the 8,000 naira?
It's going to be house to house, or
that's a repeat of another trader money. So how did trader money went? Nothing to show for it. So it's so disheartening that we've gone through this before. We all know that this is only a strategy for the boys to hit. Yes, it's just a strategy for the boys to hit, because as a matter of fact, you cannot see any form of transparency from the beginning of such, a program. No transparency, and there's no way they can be accountable to the people. And don't forget that you're borrowing money to distribute to 12 million people. Why more than 200 million people will pay for that money you've gone to borrow. Not just that, out of the money you've gone to borrow, you're going to give the judiciary, give the senators, give the representatives, and all other people will pay for that money. Are we okay? Why can't we even borrow such money to, you know, just rehabilitate the refineries? Let us know that you are really doing the work, fixing the refinery. I will begin to think of in the next 8 months, we're going to have the Kaduna refinery, we're going to have the Port Harcourt refinery, you know, come back to life. And we can also go hungry for the 8 months and put our head into the next 8 months to say by the next 8 months, fuel will be coming down to between 300 and 400 naira. But you are going to share even the 8,000 naira for 6 months. So after the 6 months, what's next? What next? And as a matter of fact, we should begin to ask ourselves, as of today, I think there was publications like yesterday about the Federal Account Allocation Committee that will be sharing more than 1 trillion naira to states for July. What's next? Are we holding state government accountable for this money? Is the government, do we even have state government that actually open for people to access information when it comes to transparency and accountability? So we've gone through all this before. Nothing new is coming. And I must say, when it comes to policies, when it comes to action, and even body language of the current president, there's nothing different from the past president. I mean, the former president, Muhammadu Buhari.
Wow. Let's really, because as Nigerians, we are all concerned and everybody is feeling the bite at this moment in time concerning all this 8,000 naira palliative. Is it, what, how, like, I know you're not an engineer, but looking at how long to refurbish those refineries, even if it's one of them, Kaduna, Port Harcourt, Warri, to get it back. I'm looking at it, is it an aspect whereby these refineries are moribund? That's why federal government is not even thinking about, let's go do something about these refineries. Because if one or two or all these refineries are working, I feel the economy will be in a better shape.
It's simple. Even if it's moribund, sell it off. Sell it off. Go into PPP agreement with companies to begin to operate this. If you feel you cannot operate, if you feel you cannot fix it, you can go into agreement with companies. But the fact is, are we even sure about the sincerity of our leaders? Like I said, do they have interest in fuel importation? Because you can't be leading more than 200 million people and feel, well, it's just going to continue like that. It's just going to be, let's share it, you know, government. No, we must begin to take actions that will not only solve our problem for now, it must solve our problems for the future. 8,000 naira is nothing as we speak in Nigeria. Even to rural dwellers. It is nothing.
Absolutely, I agree.
Yes. So 8,000 naira, not to one person. And don't forget that even the poorest of the poor in Nigeria, check the demography. They are the ones that they have more kids. Yes. Yeah. They are the ones that have more kids. So imagine 3, 4, 5 kids in a family. That's approximately family of 4 or 5. 8,000 naira. How will they spend? How will they spend it? For 6 months. So after the 6 months, what next? So we should begin to think about fixing this. I know that we have a crop of elite that feels, yes, when Dangote comes up fully, he's going to solve our problems. Don't forget, we used to have this same mentality in the cement industry. And how much is a bag of cement today?
It's about 6,000 plus.
So that doesn't solve our problems. the government must, as a matter of seriousness, fix our refinery, fix one. You know, as a run-off to the 2015 election, this current party in power was saying they are going to fix, you know, refinery every year, one refinery per year. So by now we should have 8 refineries. You know, it's so funny that we couldn't even say we have one, even after 8 years. So that shows it's the same set of people, it's the same set of promise. Definitely it's going to be the same set of failure.
Before the advent of oil, that oil has decided to take over all the state of affairs in Nigeria today, we were so much into the world of agriculture.
Yeah.
And Nigeria is blessed, just as we rightly stated as well, having good fertile land. Why have we deviated? Why is it difficult? Aside the fact that, yes, now banditry, kidnapping, terrorism, and what have you have now begun to take over the northwest, north central of this country. Before now, agriculture, why is it difficult to go back into agriculture? Everybody wants quick money, oil, oil, oil. Well, is this oil not the problem that is creating quite a whole lot of tension for us in the country as citizens now? You
know, the issue of oil and others it's just about, you already said it, quick money. But it's really cannot, you know, in the Nigerian setting, or let me say African setting, we cannot continue to hold to that quick money. It's going to get us nowhere.
Absolutely.
We are going to get more lazier, and that is why people run away from agriculture. And even in agriculture, as we speak, it is extremely difficult as a Nigerian to invest into agriculture. The insecurity is there. You know, you don't have even the facilities that can aid such an investment. Rural roads are bad. So when people go into the bushes, into the forest to farm, definitely they need to transport the produce back to the urban centers. If it's going to be for exportation, we really need to put that thing in place so that it's going to be easy for people to move those produce. Those things are not there. So it's going to be very difficult for anyone to say, I want to go into agriculture. Lots of farmland are no more working, even in the southwestern part of Nigeria, because of insecurity. As I speak, lots of, you know, poultry farms have closed down because they can't even afford, you know, feeds for their birds. Lots of things. Even aside all these things, if we begin to look at the issue of energy, yes, we want to run away from oil. We want to go into clean energy. We have a lot in Nigeria. We have a lot of minerals that can help in renewable energy. We have lithium. We have graphite that is used for, you know, batteries. That has been even exported. But because we don't really have very strong policies that will ensure that we even produce batteries here, so that as an household you can actually on your TV without, you know, depending on your generator when there's no power supply from the national grid. You can charge your phone without, you know, connecting to the national grid or making use of generators. These are not there. People cannot actually think of any other option when oil is not there, because we don't really have policies that can help us achieve such. We are solely dependent on oil, and once there is a problem with oil, every other thing falls.
Which there is right now.
Exactly.
There is. What's the way forward? Is there a way to go about this? Is there a way for that the federal government, the government at all levels, not just federal government, state governors should be able to ameliorate the sufferings of Nigerians? Somebody said, a couple of people have even said, look, rather than distribute this 8,000 naira, why don't you buy mass transit buses? Then let's look at the state of transportation to ease movement. Do you subscribe to that as well?
See, to solve this problem, it's you know, Nigerian problem is like a ball of onion. As you are peeling a level, you are seeing much more levels. And you know, when it comes to the proverbial onion, as you are peeling, you are crying. Exactly. That is Nigeria's problem. If we say you want to solve the problem of oil in Nigeria, you are opening yourself to bigger problems that you also need to fix. For me, the issue of oil, the issue of inflation, the issue of food security, all these things goes together. So you can't just say, I want to solve one problem, leaving others. Definitely, they are going to affect each other. The first thing that I, as an individual, as a Nigerian, would have expected from the current president is to say, I want to cut the cost of governance by 50%.
Yeah.
Let's start from there. Even if petrol is 1,000 naira, and we know that our president is not going in convoy of 200 vehicles. Our president is also feeling the pain. We know that the senators, the House of Representative members are not collecting whopping sums of millions of naira every month. We know that we are in the same thing together. People will be ready to, sacrifice so many things. But when you say people should go and buy fuel for 600 naira plus, and as a governor, as a senator, in the last 5-10 years, you've never been into a filling station. You can't feel people's pains. You can't, and you don't even use, small vehicles. You use, SUVs. Yeah. They GOKE fuel.
Absolutely.
Not like, saloon cars, So you don't really feel it. You don't feel what people are feeling out there. Lots of people have even been pushed out of that medium class to the lower class.
Let me thank you for taking me up to that point of cost of governance, because it was something we were going to discuss as well. Looking at the cost of governance today, if a governor, if Mr. President or the Vice President or the Senate President, or if they are moving, we see the number of convoy of cars that goes with them. And these cars don't use water. They use the same fuel that you and I would go and queue up to buy. Why is it difficult for any administration to say, hey, cutting down the cost of governance, the cost of all this, I don't want all this 50 cars following me about. Why is it difficult? Or none of them is ready to cut down on the cost of governance?
Because we have a political class that is selfish. They just want to be. Because it's actually not their money. It's our money.
Absolutely.
They want to eat off the public funds. As we speak in Osun State, we have 25, nominees. I think that they are to be sworn in very soon. 25 commissioners, 25 special advisors, 50 people in a state. Now, multiply that, let's even say average of 50 people in Nigeria. Multiply that by 36. So you could imagine the number of people that will move into governance. And these are the questions. They'll get their salaries, get a lot of things. Benefits. And in most cases, they do duplication of duties. You could imagine when we have special advisors, special assistants on media, 5-10 people. What are you mediating?
Wow.
What you only need to have a lot of people in media when they want to cover your boobs. When they want to cover you up. And as a matter of fact, this as a country, we need to begin to talk about it. We don't need a vast, governance structure. We only need it small and simple, that people can go out there, do your own duty as a public officer, and ensure that you do it the right way. You need to have official car. In fact, don't forget that the special advisor or special assistant himself will have his own personal driver, who is going to be paid for, by the government. That shows the 25 commissioners in Osun State, for example, we have 3-4 people that are going to work for them too, aside, themselves. So that's 25 times another 4. Lots of people. For how many ministries? And what are these ministries doing? And for how many, what's the population of the civil servants? So we should begin to see how we can cut down governance. Don't make it complex. Make it simple. Fortunately, the advent of technology should have, changed things for us as a country, even as a continent. But we are not ready to change because we want to feed on public funds. Because we also have the elite, class that are not ready to really help the people down the ladder. Once they are there, they want to eat the money, use, bulletproof cars, go away with lots of packages after the office, and ensure that they continue to make the system dry. And for me, we can go nowhere with such a mentality as a country until we change.
Looking at the cost of governance still, and looking at what is being proposed, and it's always been said that even if we see it in the dailies, in the media, after some few days, that look, if the members of government at all levels, they would have probably signed, delivered the monies, and before they bring it out to the public or for public consumption. Looking at how much is being proposed for bulletproof cars for lawmakers in Nigeria today, that will probably kick a refinery working in Nigeria today. And I now look at the state at which, if I'm out of office, all my official vehicles that I use during my time, why it's not mine? It's for government. Why is it not being always released? Now that they are proposing over 100 billion naira for bulletproof cars, can we ever get it right in governance in Nigeria? Is it possible?
That is the problem. And don't also forget that our electoral system, the path through which they got to that post, they've also spent a lot. It's too expensive. And definitely, it's more like for politicians, it's just like an investment. And they want to get there and also make their money. They want to make their money. So they find every means, every ways to make this money. But we are going nowhere with such a mentality. Imagine the cost of a bulletproof car.
Yeah.
See, it's very simple. If you can't fix education, you will definitely spend on security. Because it's someone that is not educated that will at least normally take up arms against the state, begin to kidnap. So definitely, if you are not going to spend on ensuring that Nigeria works better, you are going to buy bulletproof cars because you will be scared of people, taking you away.
Absolutely.
Being kidnapped.
Absolutely.
So until we begin to have a mentality that really reflects our current realities, the first solution to every problem is to accept there is a problem. When you accept that there is a problem, you can now begin to think positively about solving such a problem. So until you accept that there is a problem, until you accept that it is not enough for you to begin to go around, trying to find reasons for issues. We need to buy bulletproof car because of this, because of that. Accept that you don't need a bulletproof car in such an economy that $1 is more than 800 naira. Accept that we are in this problem together, and as a leader, you should take the first step. Once you accept that, then everything works. As a matter of fact, in the last 8 years, Nigerians have been sacrificing a lot, thinking that the crop of leaders we have will really help. What happened in 2012 during Occupy Nigeria? How much was fuel at that time that everything went locked down? Now, how much is fuel today? What has happened? Nothing. People accepted it because they felt, can we just do something? So until we begin to have leaders that are really willing to help the common man fix the system and ensure that the system is strong enough to even work after you have gone, that is when we begin to have a Nigeria of our own.
To have a Nigeria of our own calls for quite a whole lot of sacrifice, but members of people in governance, government at all levels today, seem not to be really ready to sacrifice. But looking at somebody like former governor of Ogun State, OMIGBODUN, with what he said, that look, now that I'm in the Senate, every pension accruable to me, please stop it. I'm not sure, I stand to be corrected, I'm not sure I've seen any other person like that that has come out to say every pension, because if you look at most of them in the Senate, they are either ex-governors or this and that, and they still get pensioned. My father or my mother in the rural areas are there, whereby pension is, but we give kudos to the governor of Osun State here, who's trying to make a way to see that pensioners get a headway. Why is it difficult for them to follow that route of what OMIGBODUN has done? Or should there be a legislation to say, once you are here, everything called pension for the period in which you are here is scrapped?
See, we really need to ask ourselves some questions. Why the pension? You worked for 8 years and you want to collect pension. Now, someone who worked 30, 35 years is still struggling. Struggling.
Absolutely. Yeah.
To even get his or her own pension. 30, 35 years. And you worked for 8 years. Now, your pension as a public officer after working for 8 years is like how many percentage of someone that works 35 years? It is selfishness. It is theft of public fund. It's as simple as that. You've made your money as a governor, as a president. You've made impact. If you have really worked, you don't even need the pension. Yes, you don't need the pension. Your works. People should come and begin to give you so many things because you have actually worked for the people. So saying the issue of pension, for me, as a Nigerian, it is needless. Because you only worked for 8 years. Yes. And you didn't, no one begged for it. No one begged you for it. You said you want to sacrifice your life for the so years you've served us. So why are we going to pay you? We actually paid you when you were doing the work. Yes. Go ask artisans out there. They get paid for doing their jobs.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
No one pays them after they've delivered. Yes. No one paid them after they've delivered. And even if they didn't deliver, they are called back to fix that problem without being paid. So it's as simple as anything. We should begin to think of the reality and how our system will really fit into who we really are, what we really are, and what we really want to be. Now, the issue of pension for the senators who are ex-governors, it doesn't make sense. If you are not trying to steal people's funds, you are being paid as an ex-governor, ex-deputy governor. You went to the Senate and you want to eat from both mouths. It is selfishness. It is selfishness. You are collecting a lot of money from the Senate, from the House of Rep, and you still want to imagine. It is selfishness. No other word. Because we are still clamoring for senators collecting a lot of money. You are even collecting much more money. For what? For goodness sake. So until we begin to see people that are really ready to open up conversations and without being forced, saying, guys, remove my pension. Take it off. Imagine what the pension of ex-governors, ex-deputy governors in the Senate can do for local communities. Imagine the number of primary health care centers that those monies can build for local communities. imagine the number of classrooms that can be built with such money. So we should begin to see how we can, you know, even to legislate over such issues. You begin to ask yourself, who will be the lawmaker to legislate over such? They are the same set of people. They are the ones. It's more or less like you're saying they should judge themselves. They won't. They won't. So it is disheartening that the structure, the system has crippled the ordinary man not to have interest or not to have a voice in ensuring that we have a strong public institution as a country.
Is it not an aspect where whereby why somebody like what's it called again? I'm trying to get his name properly. Now, what would we do at this moment in time as Nigerians? Because we're not inciting Nigerians against the government or thereabout, but Nigerians, when they say when a dog gets to a place where the dog can't go further and it looks by a turn whatever, because Nigerians is getting to that point. Nigerians are a little, even if I pass beside you, we don't know each other and I mistakenly hit you, or
there is anger out there.
There is anger everywhere.
Yes.
When we come back, let me just hold you down a little bit. When we come back after this very short break, we will continue with our discussions, and I still have Mr. Tony JUWON in the house with me, and we have been looking at the state of the nation at this moment in time. It's really, really a very tough period as we speak. But federal government is working on what should be done. Can we still rely on that? We'll be talking about that much more. Please stay with us.
The Berlin Conference of 1884 defined the configuration of Africa, which hitherto existed as a continent of multiple kingdoms and empires under native rulers. The conference, otherwise referred to as Congo Conference, regulated European colonization and trade in Africa as initiated by German leader Otto von Bismarck. The Berlin Conference is often called the scramble for and partitioning of Africa, as each of the imperial powers carved separate portions of the continent for themselves without recourse to racial and cultural identities and differences. 137 years after the Berlin Conference was held,
Thank you for being there. All right, we have still been talking about the state of the nation, looking at what it looks like at this moment in time. Nigerians are groaning, and there's so much hardship, poverty in the land. But the federal government have said, hey, let's, they probably said, okay, let's do 8,000 naira to cushion the effect of these hard times. But in the last couple of days, Nigerians have shouted, we have spoken, taken to social media. NLC and TUC are now saying, hey, there's nothing like that. 8,000 naira, what can 8,000 naira do to 12 million households for the next 6 months? Can that ever be worth it? Can it take us to the Holy Land, in which we are all waiting for? I have been speaking with my brother here and someone who has really been able to give us insightful knowledge as to his opinion concerning so many things that we have been discussing, most especially the 8,000 naira palliative as proposed by the federal government. Once again, let me say thank you to Mr. Tony JUWON for joining me from Urban Alert, and joining us live as well, via Zoom. I have architect GOKE OMIGBODUN here in the house joining me via Zoom. Architect, good morning to you there. Is it morning? Okay, yeah, I think this is morning. To probably confirm properly if you are in Nigeria or outside Nigeria.
I'm just a few kilometers away from you. It's morning here. It's a very bright morning. But you see, before you actually brought me on air, you said something like, I'm looking fresh. And that just reminded me of a friend of mine. While we were undergraduates, he was always looking fresh. But he will tell you face fresh, but inside hot.
Well, we know someone like you, but let's just leave that. I'll talk to you about that once we are done. Thank you for joining me, Architect GOKE OMIGBODUN. And let's look at what it looks like with you and for you. Fuel. I don't know, maybe you have the opportunity as someone who is close to the government. You're getting free fuel. But please, how can you help us speak to them to look, Nigerians are groaning. If 617 naira per litre fuel subsidy has just been removed, what do you make of this?
Well, what we make of it is not different from what we made of it a few weeks ago. You know, I had the opportunity of speaking with you either on television or on radio, and I said they already put the cart before the horse. We ought to have had palliative in place. I said it then that if in fact it was a breach of the laws of the land, of the Petroleum Industry Act and of the Appropriation Act 2023 to have removed the oil subsidy on May 29, when actually the Appropriation Act provided that it should have been removed by the 30th of June. And that gap of about a month should have been enough for the government to think of palliatives to have put in place so that the hardship that people are facing now would not be there. And coupled with that is also the issue of virtual complete deregulation of exchange rates floating naira now. And so we also said that since the Dangote refinery ought to have been putting PMS in the market, that we will not require imports, then that would not have been an issue. But now we are still importing from, and the naira exchange rate has made naira to really be thoroughly breached in by the life is tough for the people, and all I can make of this is that the federal government has not done enough planning ahead. Even the same party in government, President Ahmed Tinubu, has always been addressed as leader of the APC. So he ought to involve in advanced planning. And aside of that, whoever actually became president had the longest time in the history of governance in Nigeria in campaigning to become president, and enough time to prepare ahead, and we should not be having these trial and error versions of governance that we are having. Perhaps the only thing good that I can say is that at least they claim that they are listening to the voices of the people, and in deference to that, they are trying to do away with that other leg, a new leg, which would have been another leg of fraud, because we know that it's not really the subsidy that people were complaining about, it's the fraud associated with the subsidy. And since it would be difficult for their governments to do away with the fraud and still keep the subsidy, that's why we said, let's just do away with everything, water and the baby, because the baby was already so messed up, the subsidy was already so messed up, and the water was also not healthy anymore. The baby would have died in any case. So the situation now is that, yes, in listening to the people, let's give them that bit of commendation, but the fact still remains that ab initio, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu breached the laws of the land. And like I said then, honestly, if it were in some really, if it were being another crime where the legislature up to its task, it should have been impeached by now.
Well, let me, before I come back to Mr. JUWON in the studio with me this morning, let me look at, there is a hold as to the 8,000 naira has been proposed, that was proposed, but now there is a review towards that, and the NLC have come out, the TUC have come out. Just as I asked Mr. JUWON in the studio this morning, so do you feel we still have the backings of the labor unions, NLC, TUC, anymore in this country?
Well, labor unions, NLC, TUC are peopled by citizens of Nigeria. And we also watch them the way we watch the rest of the people of Nigeria. By coincidence, in my usual trying to cancel the people of Nigeria, something that I put out today is that people should not be self-centered. So, well, there are occasions that we have had leadership of those organizations also displaying personal interests that will make them appear self-centered. So I will not say that completely we will do away with labor leaders. They have their roles. All we can do is to call them to reckoning, to reason that they are there representing the people, and they should remember the days of old when we had people like Pa Imodu. They should remember the days of old when we have people, my own uncle Hazan Sumanu, who is still alive and here with us in Oshogo. Those were people that were selfless, and they were able to give a kind of leadership for the labor unions that eventually translated into leadership for the masses of this country. And that's what the unions and their leadership should be looking at right now.
I spoke with Mr. JUWON in the House, and I'm going to take this opinion from both of you at this moment in time now. Gentlemen, Architect OMIGBODUN, just as I asked him, Nigerians, before the advent of oil, we've always been an agricultural oriented nation, more of cocoa and what have you. But ever since oil came, the oil boom, it seems as if we are neglecting oil, we're neglecting agriculture at this moment in time. But gentlemen, let me look at this story here, whereby President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has ordered the release of grains to 50 million farmers. Others, is this not a wake-up call to go back to agriculture? Let me start with Mr. JUWON in the studio before I take your opinion, Architect OMIGBODUN.
So for me, it's not enough for government or for any of our leaders to order a release of something. The question you ask yourself is, will these fertilizers even get to the real farmers? Because we have political farmers.
These grains.
Yes, grains, the fertilizers.
Everything comes together.
Will it really get to the real farmers, those that are really farming? We have political fertilizer, political farmers. we have corporate farmers. You know, we have people that are making use of their links to governments to get all these things and now sell it again to those who really need them. So this is the structure we need to decentralize. How do we know those real farmers? We've had a lot of programs in Nigeria about when it comes to agriculture, anchor borrower for rice. You remember? And lots of programs and projects like these have gone down the drain without anything significant to show for it. So should we begin to have structures that will really clean off our system of political farmers when it comes to the agri sector, begin to look at the real people that are really farming, producing crops. Until we do that, no matter the tons of fertilizers, the grains that president orders to release, we are still at that same point.
Wow. Architect OMIGBODUN, I know that you are a farmer, but the point is, because of the state of insecurity, you decided to be very careful about going back to the farms. But should we have a balanced security architecture all around the country? Should we as Nigerians go back to the farms?
In fact, you've just touched the real crux of the matter. When you have insecurity, no matter how much grains and fertilizers that you pour into the farms, so to say, if I do not feel to go to the farm, I'm afraid I may be kidnapped. I'm afraid that it's becoming such an everyday thing that the government is not able to cope with it. And for the land, pray that you do not have to begging other people who yet don't even have for themselves to be able to put something together to pay ransom. Then we are still not yet there. But let me thank the president for thinking of taking us back to the farm with that, if there's sincerity in what they're doing. You will remember that when I was campaigning to be governor of Osun State, I made it clear that I was going to make agriculture a priority, and I spoke specifically of oil palm. It is because you are talking of crude oil that I'm also reminding you that I know as far as then that for the past 5 or 6 years till date, and even as I'm still speaking with you now, the price of oil palm per barrel in the international market is higher than the price of crude oil per barrel. So, and why can't we go back to this oil palm thing? And it takes 5 years for the present species of oil palm that we have around, that they begin to bring in something for you, and for the next 30 years after that, there will be something. That's what they did in Malaysia. They took the seedlings from here, and now they are doing very well with that. So other than the issue of security, we should target particular things that will also generate very good income for us. Using this opportunity to talk to all the governors, I don't even necessarily believe that it should be about the federal government alone. Let the governors, we have very good soil for oil palm plantation and grooming here. Let us go into oil palm production, and then we'll make a lot more money than we're trying to make from crude oil. And then a follow-up to that is that we also should be thinking of what are we going to do with whatever we produce in the farm. I think my brother in the studio said something about that. The storage, the value added going into manufacturing. We need electricity to be able to do that. And if you will remember, that's one of the things I spoke about too when I said I wanted to be governor of Osun. I said I will make sure that will be able to generate, transmit, and distribute electricity. All these things go together. And honestly, you need articulate people to be in governance. But if the people of Nigeria would rather sell their votes than put people with passion, intelligence, track record, and focus, then we have to live with whatever we find on our hands to live with.
Gentlemen, I'd like to thank you all most sincerely. GOKE, OMIGBODUN, please enjoy your stay, and please make sure the Amala Abula is well served. Thank you most sincerely, sir.
Thank you. Today, I'm happy that you brought me out. God bless you.
Thank you most sincerely. I'd like to also thank you, Mr. Tony JUWON. Thank you sincerely for taking time out to be with me on the program this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. That wraps up the show for today. Morning Spring live from Western Spring Television. TUNDE IDOWU is my name, at Irresistible TD on Twitter. I'll be back again tomorrow on another edition. And I want to say, hey, if your dog, just like my director's dog, is beginning to eat corn, then they calls for a concern. I'll leave you in the hands of my director to send us the clip of his dog eating corn. Agbado. I'll be back again tomorrow. Good morning.